Hey everybody, welcome back to a newly rejuvenated Northernlion plays the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus. That's the name of the game. Triple shot, placebo, ACNR, RCBF. Oh, I've actually temporarily died inside when I saw that our fire rate was 20. And then I thought, you know what? We have triple shot. It's definitely not accurate to suggest that this is equivalent to a fire rate of 7. At least in terms of function. Maybe that's, I don't know if it actually cuts your fire rate by a third. Or I guess I should say, you know, raises your time to fire by a factor of 3. Thank God we got that. You don't want to mess up the numbers in this game. That's how you end up with the, you know, accidents. But I was temporarily like, oh my God. 20 rate of fire is gonna cause us some problems. Will it actually cause us some problems here? I don't know. The jury's kind of out for now. I was actually looking for tinted rocks. 99 bombs is an incredible find. And placebo was actually a really good start. It's the kind of thing that, it's the perfect Christmas gift. Let's put it that way. You would never get it for yourself, but it's good to have. You know, people have got things like that in their lives. People don't treat themselves all the time. You know, my parents very rarely treat themselves. You know, they're frugal people. It's easy to buy gifts for them. Although, you know, it's kind of hard to give them the gift because then they're like, we can't possibly accept this. And then you got to be like, it's too late. I already shredded the gift receipt. The store closed down. We bought it from a country that no longer exists again. Then they're like, okay, fine. If there's no other option, I guess we'll be forced to accept it. But, I mean, to some extent, I'm like that too. Although I'm very hard to buy gifts for. I'm not good with gifts in general. I'm not weird about it, I mean, I guess I'm a little weird about it, but what else is new? I'm not like, oh, don't give me a gift, it's an act of aggression, but at the same time, I don't always like to receive gifts. It has very little to do with the quality of the gift. It's got more to do with the, I don't know, I guess the culture surrounding gifts of, you know, accepting help from a stranger means that they're better than you. I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know, I just find it... I find that a gift, even if I love the gift, which I usually do at least like a gift, I always feel like I'm acting when it's almost, and don't shoot the messenger here, Austin was talking about it on one of his streams, it's like getting a subscriber on Twitch, right? Some people, when they get a subscriber on Twitch, they're like, holy crap, oh my God, thank you so much, DongLord69, for the subscription. This is amazing, dude. I can't even imagine you've changed my life with this subscription. And the thing is, that person might be being sincere, but because the reaction is over the top, it smacks of a little disingenuousness. You know what I mean? You know, you could easily frame it in the negative way here, which is that NL's ungrateful for his position in life. It's not the case of very grateful. That's why I, you know, work as much as I do, to be honest, produce as much content as I do, is partly out of this idea that I have a debt that could not possibly ever be repaid. And then that guilt motivates me to produce more content than necessarily I should, to some extent. However, I think I have the same thing when it comes to opening gifts. Just even if it's exactly what I asked for, I feel like to some extent, you gotta put on a show. Because my natural reaction to receiving, you know, a gift for Christmas or something, especially you know, a gift from a spouse is a little bit different than a gift from your grandparents. You know what I mean? But, well, when in Rome. Sorry, placebo. The thing that kicked off this conversation will now be completely left behind. But, you know, your uncle asks your parents, hey, what do you want for Christmas? And you go, Mario Golf or the Game Boy Color. Then you get Mario Golf for the Game Boy Color. How are you supposed to... What's an appropriate amount? Because my normal reaction as like a 13-year-old would be like, hey, uncle, thank you for Mario Color for the game... Or Mario Golf for the Game Boy Color. I really appreciate it. But I feel like you gotta be like, what? Oh my god. The thing we all colluded on to get. You shouldn't have. Again, it's not ungrateful. It's just, I don't know. As I've always kind of been like a more subdued person, you know, as far as like reactions go, for the most part. Even it's the same thing on the other side, by the way. Like giving someone a gift, it feels good. But also when you open it, I feel a little bit uncomfortable because I always feel like they're kind of putting on the act of pretending that they love it, even if they love it. I know it's a strange sentence. I just feel like if... I guess what the anxiety is I'm concerned that my natural, perhaps low energy, subdued reaction would make the gift giver feel bad. They would be like, oh, he doesn't like it. So instead, I gotta, you know, I amp it up to like 10. But then in doing so, you get a little bit of different anxiety, which is like, is this too much? So now they think I'm like putting on a show. Which I am, but I don't want them to know that. Right, Ruka? Exactly. My son, you've been so needy lately. What's up with that? I'm not against it, but it's annoying during working hours. If you would just be on the ground, it would not be a problem. If you could be in the box, it wouldn't be a problem. If you could be as you were for a moment there, and this is why I got hit. If you could be content being on my lap, but not trying to bite my hands on the keyboard, wouldn't be a problem. But you're always, and it's a character benefit, not a character flaw. You're always reaching for a little bit more. You're always like, I could be more comfortable over here. Could be warmer over here. Could be cooler over here, right, buddy? It's ambition. He got that ambition, baby. Look in his eyes. This week he's mopping floors. Next week it's the fries. But at the same time, your ambition is very inconvenient for me because mostly, you know, from a human perspective, the lap is the box, is the desk, is the table, is the jacket that's been clumsily placed on the couch, is a pair of shoes on the ground, etc., etc. You know what I mean? They're all beds. And also, I need my hands to work. I need my hands to work. Take a look at these hands. They're killing Isaac enemies. Oh, I was gonna say we're definitely gonna do it. We don't have a key. Now we have 2 keys. Okay, give me some keys. Also pretty good. I gotta tell you, by the way, if you are... Oh, dude, we need redemption. For my previous Tammy's Head failures, the redemption arc is now happening. If you are happy with this Isaac episode, hey, Ruka. Hey, okay, you can stay in the room, but you gotta get in the freaking box. He knows. In the box. The box. Anyway, if you're happy this Isaac episode exists, if you're enjoying it, you find the banter engaging and rich, thank Niantic. Ruka, you had 18 chances. You're gone, brother. You're out. Dan, no soup for you. Alright, we give our cats ample affection. Like for hours a night. They're both ragdolls, living in a movie. And they're a cat that, no matter how much affection you give them, they'll always desire more. Now, I say that, I don't mean it to come across as a callous thing. We give them a ton of affection, hours every night. But still, if you ever close, and this is just a cat thing. If you've never owned cats, this might surprise you, but you know they say like every door that closes, another door that opens? Nah, dude. Cat logic does not apply. For every door that's closed, even if they don't care what's behind it, it's just an affront to a cat's existence. They're just like, hey, why is this door closed? Why is this door closed? Open the door. Open the door. Then you open the door, they walk in, and they walk out. And they're just like, yeah, that's right. Anyway, what I was going to say is, if you're happy this Isaac episode exists, if you're enjoying it, thank Niantic, the company that makes Pokemon Go. Today's the day. Raids changed. And a highly anticipated Pokemon has re-entered the raid ecosystem. Mewtwo. Only this time, it's armored Mewtwo. So, like, whatever. Not... I don't really know about the specifics of what makes a Mewtwo armored. If there's statistical differences or it's just cosmetic, it doesn't really matter to me. Suffice to say, I wasn't playing the game last time a Mewtwo was around. Mewtwo's obviously a very beloved Pokemon, but also a very strong Pokemon from a meta standpoint. They released it in raids today. Went out to play a little Pokemon Go. No raids, brother. It's a little scary here. And I'm not saying no armored Mewtwo raids. I'm saying no Alolan Raichu. No Alolan... Stop. Executor. No, no Machamp. No Tyrannitars. So I said, you know what? Kate will come home. Keep an eye on maps. See if a raid egg is about to pop. And if one's about to pop, we can get over. You know, I'll... finish my Isaac episode in a timely fashion, and we'll be over there for when it occurs. So, I'm on call for my real job right now, tapping on my phone screen until I get a new Pokemon to neglect. Really, really wanted the Spirit Hearts. Was blessed to receive them. You know, I got a good feeling about this pill, too.
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong. Well, let's see, you know? I'm looking at it. I'm looking to see, because I just got a notification. Perhaps you've heard of them. Oh, there are some nearby raids happening. Okay. Now we're talking, dude. Because if I gotta admit, at first I was a little bit like, come on, y'all really blew this one. I will say, people are very, rude to Niantic, if that makes sense. I always end up... we had a conversation on the NLSS today. Austin suggested that there was suspicion that... and it was not based on any sources other than himself. And by the way, he's free to suspect whatever the heck he wants to suspect. I'm not infringing on that unalienable right of... speculation. But he suggested, like, hey, I think it's possible that the early reactions to The Lion King were influenced by money that Disney paid reviewers. And I said, you know, I understand your suspicion, but simultaneously, you know, without evidence, I find it kind of a dangerous thing to suggest. And I think both of those opinions are totally fine. However, a lot of people, you know, apparently not understand. I'm not saying my opinion is necessarily by default correct just because of this situation, but I mean, I've worked in the media industry amid, you know, speculation. Did this YouTuber get paid for this? Did IGN get a $4,000 check from EA to blah, 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 blah? Answer, no. But either way, you know, hold on. Get to the item room. A lot of people were like, NL, even if you're right that they're not doing it, why would you jump to the defense of a billion-dollar company? Well, the hundreds of billion, wow, maybe tens of billions of dollars company. Well, it's, I don't know. It sounds like, you know, I'm so enlightened bit, but like, you know, if it's the wrong thing to do, it's the... And I feel even weird saying, because I do think most people will agree with me, and it'll make it sound like, you know, I'm begging for some kind of validation there, which is not the case necessarily, but please like the video if you enjoyed it. What I just, you know, if it's right, like if somebody, because we as YouTubers or Twitch streamers could get accused of that all the time. People are like, well, they have every reason to lie. Yeah, but like everybody, if you want to take it from like that Machiavellian of a standpoint, everybody has reason to lie, you know? if people behaved fully selfishly, they would lie constantly. They would, you know, throw other people, even their loved ones, under the bus. Like, we all kind of have motive at all times to do bad actions. You know, we could increase our social standing, or, you know, our material wealth, or, you know, our position at a company or something like that by lying. But people do lie, don't get me wrong, but they don't exclusively lie. I know this is starting to sound like a little naive, but I truly believe this. Without evidence, I just find it dangerous to speculate that, you know, a company or a human being, for example, would be engaging in this stuff. You know, I know motive is an important part of, you know, investigation. What is it? It's like motive, opportunity, and something else that are like the classic axioms of investigating a crime. Look for somebody who had a reason to do the crime. Look for somebody who had the, you know, the physical positioning and time to do the crime, and you know, also preferably get some evidence, because we're not talking about a Sherlock Holmes case from a fictional book in like late 1800s. You know, it's like if somebody came up to, if there was like a murder in Vancouver of my most hated enemy, I would expect to be questioned, I suppose, depending on how it went down. But if people were like, I think he did it because he had every reason to do it, that's, I don't know. I mean, I find that unfair. And maybe you think it's a logical extreme, but I'm not saying Disney is a corporation that behaves morally or ethically. But I will say it's just scary to me sometimes how easy it is for a conspiracy theory to potentially take hold. All it takes is it sounding plausible and coherent. As long as it sounds plausible and also confirms a belief that a person already has, I really think you can make people, you can make a section of the population believe almost anything. And that sounds like scary. It is scary. Excuse me. My son. Yes, you can be in, but you gotta be in the box, okay? Hey, Ruka, if you sit in the box, I'll give you some treats later. He jumped up on the desk. Okay, immediately refuting my system. Hey, or my thesis. I just think, like, you know, if you were like, hey, big corporation is doing evil thing without evidence, people would be like, that's messed up, dude, I totally believe it. If you were like, hey, big corporation is doing really nice thing, you would only get two kinds of responses, which are, citation needed. Hold on, spirit arts? Maybe not. This is a scary situation. You would get citation needed, and you would get, yeah, but what about all the bad stuff they're doing as well? Okay, sure, I will do it. Ruka, this is insane. Get down onto the box. The box is where cats belong. And one thing I said on the show that I regret the way I phrased it. I said it's not easy to be the guy who takes the side of what people think is the bad guy in this situation. That's why I think it comes across as an, you know, an overly enlightened bit. But if there's no evidence that the guy has done bad things, or let me rephrase, maybe the guy has a history of doing bad things, that would raise suspicion. But if there's no evidence that he did this, Ruka, you have interrupted me so many times over the course of this video. Oh my lord. Anyway, take a deep breath. Just because, you know, someone has done bad things in the past does not necessarily mean that they should be held under suspicion for every, you know, possible negative thing in the future. I mean, suspicion and, you know, being accused in a court of law are obviously two different things. But, you know, just say it's a Stephen Avery situation, you know? Stephen Avery, he, well, actually, it's quite the opposite because he was falsely accused the first time anyway. But anyway, you get what I mean, right? I mean, a little bit too much of a literalist by most people's standards, probably. I just think, like, you know, I'm not taking Disney's side because they made the Marvel movies or because they're a big corporation. I'm taking their side because, you know, I think the principle is it's messed up to accuse someone of something that would be like a pretty serious accusation without having proof. Now, to say you're speculating doesn't bother me at all. We speculate about a lot of nonsense stuff on the show. But, you know, if it's the right thing to do for an individual, I think it's the right thing to do for a company in this case as well. It's my 2 cents. Just because they may have done some bad things in the past doesn't mean that they're doing bad things with this specific bad thing right now, if that makes any sense. So I'm trying to get across. You know what I mean? I'm reaching an overarching point, okay? The overarching point, and I'm getting way too on my high horse here, but there's no getting back, is that I want you to always be suspicious of what you see, if it seems, you know, fishy. However, you should be doubly suspicious about believing stuff that already conforms to what you believe the world works like, if that makes sense. You know, if you, I mean, this is kind of an irrational belief, I guess, to begin with, but if you believe that, like, a shadow council controls the world's governments from a bunker deep below the surface of the earth, and you see somebody suggest that, you should actually use, like, double suspicion, in my opinion, to look at that. And you should grill the person. Should make sure that, you know, what they're saying is sound and verifiable. Instead, what I think happens, and I don't think it's anybody's fault, I think it's human nature. If something, if a conspiracy theory or like a baseless accusation or speculation or theory, etc., comes out and it challenges people's view of what they see things as, they go, that's ridiculous, I want to see sources, I want to see evidence, blah, 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 blah. If something comes out and confirms what they already believe, they're like, see? Instantly. Are you stupid and naive enough to believe they wouldn't do this? Are you saying you don't believe that they have the capability of doing something like, you know, you see what I mean? I noticed it because I watched that freaking Bob Lazar documentary. And even this is controversial, but I refuse to acknowledge it as such. I watched that Bob Lazar documentary, and it was not convincing. Bob Lazar, by the way, is a UFO celebrity, I suppose, who plays the role of begrudgingly revealing what he saw as a physicist in the past. Anyway, he claims he's seen designs for alien spaceships and etc., while working at a secret base in Nevada in the 1980s. I think it's a fair and unbiased general overview. Now, the documentary is very one-sided. Doesn't really ask hard-hitting questions that question his credibility.
The tower.
And as a result, I took to Twitter and I said, hey, you know, I don't believe this Bob Lazar guy, but can somebody point me to... Like, the things that he's saying are interesting, for sure. Can somebody point me to maybe like a, you know, something that debunks what he's saying or calls it into suspicion, blah, blah, blah. I got a lot of good sources that, you know, kind of put into words what I was thinking and were highlighting things like, you know, the inconsistencies, I suppose. And then, you know, it started an argument in my mentions, some of it directed at me, because he claims that, like, basically, to discredit him, the U.S. government erased his educational records at some institutions that he supposedly went to. And then most people, I think, myself included, are like, it doesn't really seem to make any sense, Bob Lazar, because if they were going to do that, why wouldn't they just kill you? It's really where I... It's kind of, I hate to say it, but that's really where I asked what I thought to be the obvious question, I guess, which is like, if they wanted to make him disappear and the government had the capability to do all this puppet string stuff, behind the scenes, why wouldn't they just kill him? And I think the typical answer is like, well, then people would start asking questions. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think people would ask questions. I think maybe some corners of the internet would ask questions. Everybody else would just continue on with their lives. But anyway, regardless of that, I got a lot of people, and again, it's like, you know, I don't want to insult them, but it's like a critical thinking thing that are like, is it so ridiculous to believe that the U.S. government would try to discredit somebody? And I'm like, no, it's not, I suppose, but that's not evidence. Like, just because they could do something, I feel like the possibility of something existing holds so much water for a lot of people. It's a little scary to me. Now, there's other parts of... I mean, you don't need to get it from me. I'm not a UFO expert. You should talk... let me put it this way. Even Mathis, who I would say... I wouldn't necessarily say that Mathis believes that the Earth has been visited by extraterrestrials in the form of unidentified flying saucers. But I think he might be close. I mean, I don't think he would describe that as an insulting thing to say about him. I think he would be like, that's a fair assessment. He at least is aware of, like, you know, UFO theories and culture and et cetera, et cetera. Even he was like, yeah, real, like, UFOologists don't believe in this guy. Sure, I'll grab it. Now, I will point out, in the interest of fairness, that doesn't mean he's not telling the truth. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, and maybe the U.S. government really did. They went, whoa, crap, this Bob Lazar guy is making some good points. What should we do? I don't know, poke one incredibly arbitrary hole in his story by erasing the records that show he had a post-secondary education. You know, I deliberately phrased it in a way that's comical, but... Here's the thing. I'm a hypocrite. Because I also say that, like, you know, cynicism is... Unbridled cynicism is, you know, mental poison, and, you know, when people are just aggressively skeptical about everything, it can be frustrating, but at the same time, you know, I think you can hold these two seemingly contradictory truths to be both valid simultaneously. I always try, and I probably don't always succeed, to be more innately suspicious of things that seem to validate my beliefs too perfectly. You know, if I hold an opinion and I see like a news website, news is in quotation marks in this case, that exclusively posts articles that already validate the view that I have of the world, you know, first you gotta check and make sure it's reputable, of course, but secondly, it creates more suspicion for me, you know? Anytime I read something that is like specifically designed to make people with my opinion angry, I do take an extra second, I guess, and I think like, okay, why is it? Let's assume that this is valid. Well, let's assume that it's invalid. Why? What's the motive for this? And they're like, oh, okay, so, you know, they can become the #1 source for rage clicks about, you know, people with my view on the world. You know, they can use this as an opportunity to propel their own brand, etc., etc. I don't know. Honestly, like, I've gotten a little bit too deep into it here, but it's not really like a controversial subject, I think, to say things like this. I mean, I really don't think it is. I don't think it's really that preachy either. It's just something I see online all the time. And honestly, like, to bring it back to games, because we're gonna win this run easily and don't need to talk about Isaac at all. One of the places I see it a lot is in games, dude. And I talk about it probably ad nauseum, especially in Isaac. But, you know, there's so many, like, angry gamer channels. And I want to be clear, I don't specifically mean, like, Angry Joe. Angry Joe's kind of innocent in this, you know. He was there in 2008 or something like that. But, you know, and a lot of his reviews are really positive about games that he really likes. It's just his character is, you know, Angry Joe. But, you know, there's a lot of, like, YouTube channels, not so much Twitch, I think, because it's a little bit different style of content, but a lot of YouTube channels whose whole thing is, like, You won't believe how this publisher is bending you over right now. Look at what this developer's doing. Isn't that ridiculous? They're trying to bankrupt you. Look at this, you know, and it's all negative all the time. And if you already have the belief that this is happening, I feel like people don't always use the most rigorous of critical thinking skills when they see things that confirm what they were already thinking. You know? Rhetorical shorthands and inconsistencies and, you know, conveniences and contrivances sort of fall by the wayside, and you just go, I can't believe those scumbags would do that to us again. And it sucks, because then if you have the correct opinions, which I always do, and you express them, people go, wow, sheeple, you really believed you don't think that Ubisoft would take every last dime out of your wallet if they had the opportunity? Well, you know, even if they would, it doesn't necessarily make this news story true. I'm off my high horse, mostly because the episode is over. But, suffice it to say, actually to wrap it up, the whole Disney thing. It's not just like, would Disney pay people? These were like actual, like, you know, reviewers. Not necessarily film critics, but people who do work in like fan media, let's say. They have blue check marks and everything. And, you know, to suggest that Disney even could pay them off and nobody would even mention it out of the like 300 people that tweeted about it is also a little bit of a logical leap for me. And then secondarily, I think that there's almost like an Occam's razor explanation as someone who's been to a lot of influencer events. I think, you know, usually early screenings of stuff that are not necessarily for critics but are just to generate buzz, they just invite people who are already like essentially predisposed to like it. As it sounds boring and you know, non-nefarious, but like, you know, if you were gonna announce, you know, Borderlands 3, are you gonna invite people who are, you know, base their whole brand on being critical? Probably not. You're gonna invite people who are like, I'm Mr. Claptrap 401 on Twitch, you know? Those people, they'll cheer because they're excited. I think that's probably the more plausible explanation for what's going on here, but who knows? By the time this episode goes live, maybe there will be a major controversy about it and I'll look like a real dummy. Either way, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya!